All right, today we're diving into a project with an ambition that is, well, it's almost unbelievable. The idea is to create a time capsule of planetary wisdom by synthesizing 50,000 years of human knowledge. So let's see how they're planning to pull it off.
I mean, just think about that for a second. When you're facing something huge like climate change or social division or even just the personal challenge of building a better future, what if you could consult the entirety of human experience for guidance? That simple but incredibly powerful question is the engine behind this entire project.
You see, the core problem isn't that we don't have the answers. We do. The problem is that our knowledge is totally fragmented, it's in silos. The wisdom of ancient traditions is over here, modern scientific breakthroughs are over there, and lessons from history are somewhere else entirely. All the pieces of the puzzle are on the table, we just haven't put them together.
And this is the proposed solution, the Global Wisdom Synthesis Platform. You can think of it like a living library, but it doesn't just store information. It actively reads, understands, connects, and integrates it to generate brand new, comprehensive insights for pretty much any problem you can throw at it. And the scale we're talking about here is just staggering. We're not just looking at the last few hundred years of scientific thought. Nope. This platform is designed to ingest and learn from over 50,000 years of accumulated human wisdom. We're talking everything from the earliest indigenous traditions all the way up to real-time research being published today.
So, you're probably wondering, how on earth could a system like this possibly work? How do you turn a literal mountain of information into actual, usable wisdom? Well, let's pop the hood and take a look at the engine that drives this whole thing.
It really boils down to this four-step process. First, the ingester, which is constantly pulling in information from global sources. Then, the synthesizer uses specific patterns to connect all that knowledge. After that, the validator makes sure everything is culturally and scientifically sound. And finally, the generator packages it all up into these wisdom time capsules for anyone to use.
Okay, so step one is the knowledge ingester. This is basically the mouth of the platform. It's constantly scanning and pulling in information from absolutely everywhere. Academic databases, ancient texts, global book publications, you name it. It literally never stops learning.
Next up, we have the wisdom synthesizer. Now this is the brain of the operation. It doesn't just collect facts like a database, it applies a set of proven patterns, and we'll get into what those are in a minute, to find the hidden connections, the common threads, and the universal principles that run through completely different fields and time periods.
Now, of course, when you're dealing with this much information, quality control is absolutely everything. So the third step, the quality validator, acts as a critical filter. It checks to make sure the output is culturally aware, that it's backed by scientific evidence, and that it's actually useful in the real world. It's not just about what we know, it's about what we can trust.
And that brings us to the final step, the time capsule generator. This part takes all that validated, synthesized wisdom and packages it up neatly. It creates these comprehensive, totally shareable guides in standard formats so these insights can be preserved, studied, and actually applied by anyone, anywhere in the world.
Okay, so I mentioned those proven patterns the synthesizer uses. This is really the secret sauce of the whole platform. It's the underlying logic that transforms all that disconnected data into coherent wisdom. And it's all built on 5 key patterns. The first pattern is called wisdom validation, and it's all about bridging the old with the new. So, for example, it might take an ancient piece of wisdom, say a Stoic principle on resilience, and then cross-reference it with modern neuroscience. What you get at the end isn't just a nice theory, it's an actual evidence-based practice. Pattern 2 is cross-tradition synthesis. This one is fascinating. It looks at multiple completely different traditions, like Buddhist philosophy, indigenous teachings, and Aristotelian ethics, and it hunts for the core principles that they all share. You know, when the same fundamental idea pops up independently across different cultures, that's a pretty strong clue you've found a piece of universal wisdom. Then we have pattern 3, scale translation, which is where things get super practical. It takes an insight that works for an individual, like a mindfulness technique, and then it explores how that very same principle can be applied at the community level or inside a big organization or even across an entire economic system.
The fourth pattern is what keeps the platform from becoming a dusty old library. Real-time integration means it's constantly blending the latest live knowledge, like a new research paper that was just published yesterday, with its massive database of timeless wisdom. This is what makes sure the guidance is always current and actually useful for the world we live in today. And the fifth and final pattern is really the last mile, time capsule generation. This is where that rich, multi-layered synthesis gets structured into that coherent, exportable package we talked about. It's the step that turns the whole complex process into a simple, usable product.
So we've got this powerful engine and these really clever synthesis patterns. But again, that big question still hangs in the air. How do we know the output is actually reliable? This next part is all about the framework that's built to ensure quality over just, a giant quantity of data.
A huge piece of this quality framework is something called time depth validation. An idea is checked to see if it shows up across different historical eras. Is it an ancient principle that's managed to survive for millennia? Is it a key part of modern thought? And is it still relevant in a contemporary application? You see, durability over time is a really strong sign of an idea's value.
And this table gives you a great snapshot of the kinds of sources that provide that time depth. On one hand, you have ancient wisdom from traditions like Stoicism and Taoism, which give us those timeless principles. Then you have scientific validation from fields like neuroscience, which gives us the modern evidence. And then you have contemporary applications like restorative justice, which show us documented real-world outcomes.
So when you put it all together, the quality of the wisdom really rests on these four key pillars: time depth validation, which we just saw; cross-cultural verification to find those universal truths; scientific backing to make sure it's evidence-based; and finally, practical effectiveness to make sure it actually works in the real world. And all of this brings us to the ultimate goal, because this isn't just about creating some perfect, pristine digital archive. It's about creating a tool. It's about building a time capsule for tomorrow that we can use to put global wisdom into action today.
The vision behind this whole thing is just so powerful. The creators describe it as achieving a compounding effect on wisdom. What that means is each new synthesis doesn't just answer one question, it actually strengthens the entire knowledge base, making the next synthesis even smarter. It's an ever-growing, self-improving system.
So, what kinds of questions could we actually ask this thing? Well, the potential applications are just vast. We could ask for a synthesis on how to build resilient communities, or how to best integrate AI with human wisdom. We could tackle these enormous, wicked problems, like healing our planetary ecosystems or completely transforming our economic systems for the better.
And that leaves us with one last really fascinating question to think about. If you had access to this platform, this synthesis of 50,000 years of human knowledge, of trial and error, of brilliance and failure, what would be the one question that you would ask?